Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being with us tonight. My name is Dustin Fox, and I am the Administrative Specialist for the Office of Veteran Success, and I will be the moderator for tonight's events. We are looking forward to hearing your questions and comments about the upcoming semester, and we hope that this time tonight can provide you with an opportunity to share some of your concerns with our office. We are here to support you, and we thank you for your time. Before we begin, here are a few brief housekeeping items to bear in mind throughout the presentation. During the presentation, you will have the opportunities to ask questions using the QA feature. You should see that feature along the top ribbon of your screen. You should see a question icon, or you may also see an ellipses or a 3-dot icon on the center of your screen that should allow you to ask questions. In that QA feature, simply type in your comments there, and I will be reviewing each comment and publishing them for the group to see. I may also respond to your comments privately. Once the presentation from our speakers has ended, we will begin a live QA with all staff members present. If you see a question that you would like to be answered during the presentation, please like that comment, and I'll be sure to bring it up during the live QA portion at the end of the event. Following our event, we will have several live breakout sessions that you are welcome to attend. On the top of the chat, you will see the links to each session. If you would like to save them now, you may, but we will also share these links again at the end of the session during the QA portion of the event. Thank you all again for being here, and without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you all to the Director of the Office of Veteran Success, Dr. Larry Brow. Larry?
Thank you, Dustin. Good evening. I want to welcome everyone to our first Veteran Success Town Hall meeting. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. As we prepare to return to campus for the fall 2020 semester, we realize that there may be some concerns and questions about the services our office will provide and how we can help you best negotiate the COVID-19 environment. I can guarantee that we are doing our very best to ensure that we provide you with excellent service, despite the challenges presented by the virtual reality we're now living. We will do our level best to provide you with face-to-face services when possible or necessary. We realize that there will be circumstances which are necessary for you to talk to someone in person, and we will do our very best to accommodate that need. Your academic and career and life success is very, very important to us, and we are committed to walk through this challenge with you. At any point that you don't feel like you're getting the support and service that you need, please reach out to us and we will help you. I hope over the course of this town hall, you'll feel more confident in our ability to support you through these unusual circumstances. So at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to our moderator, Dustin Fox, so we can get the show started. Again, I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight. Dustin?
Thank you, Dr. Brow. Up next, I'd like to introduce the Associate Director of the Office of Veteran Success, Jason Miller. Jason?
Thank you, Dustin. Good evening, everyone. First, I would like to start by saying to all of our student veterans listening in, thank you for your service. Let it never be understated the commitment you made to this nation, and we thank you for that and look forward to helping you accomplish your goals while as a student at USF. Our office is here to serve you and assist you in achieving your definition of success beyond service. Thank you again for being here tonight. I'd like to begin my portion by covering some of the timeline that got us to where we are today, and some of the resulting policy changes and adjustments made by the VA as well as the university. I'm going to cover course modalities, how that affects your GI Bill, overpayments resulting in debt, instructional methods USF is using this fall, deferments, financial aid, and out-of-state waivers. Many of you remember vividly earlier this year on March 13th, when USF announced that they would resume classes after spring break virtually instead of face-to-face. Within days of that announcement, the VA was already changing policy and procedures based upon legislation in the US Congress, legislation targeting student veterans and those using GI Bill benefits. The first such piece of legislation was Senate Bill 3503, signed into public law on March 21st. This law ensured student veterans would receive waivers for classes that changed modalities because of COVID-19. Even though students were involuntarily converted to online course modalities, which under normal circumstances could lower the amount they receive for monthly housing allowance, student veterans were able to maintain the monthly housing allowance rate under this legislation. Another piece of legislation signed into public law on April 28th was the Student Veteran Coronavirus Response Act of 2020. This law allowed payments to continue for VA work studies, even if they were not working on campus. And it also gave extensions of vocational rehabilitation and education benefits and delimiting dates until the end of the year. With regard to VA overpayments and debt, when a student using GI Bill changes their schedule or withdraws from a class for reasons other than COVID, this normally results in an overpayment and resulting debt owed by the student. The VA has recognized how debts would negatively impact student veterans during the pandemic. And as of July 9th, debts owed to the VA under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Treasury Department remain suspended through the end of 2020. This means any debt a student owes to the VA will not be collected on until 2021. This does not mean that students who adjust their schedule will not receive debt letters, because you will, and you probably have, as has the university. However, it does mean if you're unable to pay the debt, you don't have to right now. The VA has basically given an extended grace period on the debt until 2021. Those who have extenuating circumstances can call the VA Debt Management Center and speak to a representative about maintaining that debt relief beyond 2020. Another policy the VA and the university have put into place for this fall involves payment deferments and release of financial aid prior to GI Bill payments arriving. Every student using GI Bill who has requested to use their benefit in Clockworks prior to the last day of add drop week will receive a 90-day deferment before having to pay the balance on their student account. This 90-day deferment gives the VA time to send payment to the university. It also allows you time to receive the monies paid directly to you before you settle your bill with the university. For those who filled out their FAFSA and have grants, scholarships, loans, or other financial aid waiting for them, the University Controller's Office will release that aid to you via direct deposit or check within the first couple weeks of school. Please note, it's very important for you to provide the Office of Veteran Success a copy of your Certificate of Eligibility, or COE, prior to the end of add drop week. Those who do not submit a copy of the COE will not have the financial aid released to them until their GI Bill arrives. Likewise, if you're not receiving 100% benefit, you will still be responsible for any balance not covered by your GI Bill payment. Rules for the Bill Young out-of-state tuition waiver have not changed with COVID. However, the university is looking at alternative waivers for student veterans and dependents using GI Bill who may have returned home to another state due to COVID and are being charged out-of-state fees. If you are in this category, be sure to fill out an out-of-state tuition waiver on our OVS website, and we will work with you to remove those charges. My next topic is course scheduling and your GI Bill. Some of you may be wondering if all of your fall 2020 classes are going to be online or on campus, or a combination of both. You can check your updated fall schedule on OASIS by logging into myusf.com and clicking on registration and then student detailed schedule. You will notice each course has an instructional method and scheduled meeting times. Both are important to pay attention to. The instructional method will tell you how you will take the course, mostly on campus, mostly online, a hybrid of the two, or 100% online. The scheduled meeting times will indicate whether you can expect to take the course synchronously or asynchronously. Synchronous online courses are taught live online and require students and instructors to gather through a virtual platform at the same day and time and engage together in teaching and learning. Asynchronous online courses, while still having due dates and deadlines, do not require students and instructor to meet virtually at the same time. Let's take a look at a couple examples that illustrate this. In example 1, you can see this course is 100% online instruction. However, under scheduled meeting times, it shows the course is to be taken on Mondays and Wednesdays from 12:30 to 1:45. This is considered synchronous. Students are expected to meet virtually at the same time each week. In example 2, you can see that again, this course is 100% online instruction. However, under scheduled meeting times, it shows TBA under time and OFFT under where. This is considered an asynchronous course. Students will not be expected to meet in person or virtually at the specified time each week. Just to be on the safe side, be sure to double check your course syllabus and ask your professor at the beginning of the semester if the course you're taking is synchronous or asynchronous. That way you are prepared and know the requirements for the course. I know most of this is not what you are used to seeing on your schedule, but please have faith that we are all in this together and are working with your best interests in mind. Along those lines, when it comes to using GI Bill with all online, synchronous, or asynchronous, regardless of the instructional method, we will certify all courses as face-to-face to the VA, except for the programs of study that are approved for online only. USF does not have many of those, so what does that mean for you? Those that are using GI Bill chapter that authorizes a monthly housing allowance will receive that allowance just like you were if you were taking face-to-face classes this fall. Even if all of your courses are delivered online, you can still receive your monthly housing allowance unless your program of study was approved for online only prior to COVID-19 beginning. If you are interested in finding out more, please drop a question in the Q&A chat window or drop into one of our breakout sessions after the town hall concludes. We are in unprecedented times when it comes to implementing GI Bill policy, and we fully expect changes yet to come. But please know that we at the university and those working behind the scenes at the VA and in DC are working to support student veterans the best we can and meet your unique needs. Thank you for your attention, and I'll give it back to our moderator, Dustin, to introduce our next speaker. Dustin?
Thank you, Jason. Up next, I'd like to introduce the Operation Manager at the Office of Veteran Success, Amy Carpenter. Amy?
Hello, everybody. It's great to be with you all tonight. As Dustin said, I'm Amy Carpenter, and I am the Operations Manager at OVS Tampa. I'm going to be talking tonight about what our students can expect from OVS, whether they're coming back to campus or whether they're staying solely online for the fall 2020 semester. As a disclaimer, I'm just going to be talking about the Tampa campus procedures. So if you guys are on the St. Pete or Sarasota campuses, please stand by for the breakaway sessions following the Q&A to meet with our assistant directors from those campuses for further details on their specific plans. So let's get started with the safety measures inside both of our offices for those that are going to be returning back to campus. So first and foremost, of course, since it is a USF-wide policy, masks and social distancing will be mandatory for anyone entering into either one of our offices or also our veteran academics commons for studying. We want to emphasize that a safe return to campus is a shared responsibility between our students and everyone on our staff. So all of us will be held to the same standards and expectations when it comes to these protocols set by USF. As you can see on my second slide, in both of our offices, we've added additional safety measures and sanitation supplies. USF has installed these front desk shields so that there's no physical contact between our front desk workers and students and visitors. In addition to our cleaning products that we've already had on site, USF has provided these Sandy kits to every office, and they'll be available for use by not only our staff, but students utilizing our VAC as well, so that they can clean their areas both before and after use. I do want to note that the VAC, waiting areas, and staff areas in both offices are going to be cleaned throughout the day by OVS staff. Inside our VAC, we've blocked off every other computer, and the tutoring areas in the back 2 rooms now have reduced seating. In those rooms, we've added in computers and working cameras and microphones for our tutors, so they'll be able to remotely conduct tutoring sessions with our students if they'll be on campus to do so. I'll talk a little bit more about our updated tutoring program in just a second. To ensure we maintain social distancing in all of our offices, we've reduced the number of seats in both office waiting areas to ensure that all visitors can keep at least 6 feet of distance between one another. All right, so let's talk about staffing. So for the fall semester, there will be at least 3 staff members and also additional work studies on site every day during the week for student walk-ins and appointments. So if you do come to campus with a question or concern, there will always be somebody here to assist you. For our students who are remaining solely online or who are uncomfortable coming to the office with questions or concerns, OVS will be starting virtual hours in the fall. You can still call or email us during normal business hours, but we will now post a link on our website, and all you have to do is click that link and you'll be connected live to a Microsoft Teams chat room, and then you can talk face-to-face with one of our work studies for assistance with any issues or concerns that you have. And you can even do this on your phone or your mobile device, so it's very convenient. We're also transitioning programs and services to be offered remotely. Specifically, as I mentioned earlier, OVS's vet-to-vet tutoring program is now virtual. So with the tutoring program now online, students from all 3 campuses now have access to tutors and students requiring the service. And we also have another change to our tutoring program this fall, which is the addition of a student who can assist with navigating Microsoft Teams and Canvas to help students overcome that learning curve that generally comes with both. So we do know students are using these programs much more frequently, so mastering both of them can ensure that these students they have the best chance at success in an online learning environment. So that was a general overview of the safety procedures in some of our remote services. Let's introduce you all to the rest of the OVS staff that we have in our meeting today, and they will all be available for separate breakaway sessions after our group Q&A. So let's get started with Brad Gilkes and Chris Musser, who will be available in the Education Benefits Processing breakaway session. Brad is our Senior Benefits Coordinator, and Chris is our Admissions and Benefits Coordinator. Both certify students of all chapters on campus, so they can assist with any questions you all have about certifications at USF. If you have questions about class selection, the vet-to-vet tutoring program I spoke about earlier, or basically anything academic related to USF, Shani Gonzalez will be available in the academic breakaway session to assist. Janine Frederick is our Vet Success on Campus coordinator, and while she does work alongside us in the office, she is actually a VA employee. So Janine can help assist with any VA benefits or service-related questions that you all may have. Ken Narwhal is our Veteran Support Coordinator, and he can assist with questions about the current job market in Tampa Bay and the surrounding areas, as well as anything career-related. And last but not least, for our St. Pete and Sarasota students, the assistant directors from both campuses, Wayne Taylor and Carlos Moreira, will be available for a breakaway session together to discuss their return to campus plans. Also, if anyone has questions about anything we've discussed in our presentation or just general questions not covered in another breakaway session, Dr. Brown, Jason Miller, and myself will all be available in a session together as well. And that's everybody. So thank you all again so much for being here with us this evening. We dedicated about the next 30 or 40 minutes for our group Q&A. So please submit all of your questions or your feedback into the group Q&A chat now if you haven't already done so. So let's move on to the group Q&A with Dustin. Dustin.
Thank you, Amy. So we have a few questions that have already been published. So let's go ahead and get started. The first question that I have here is, will you explain how Florida Bright Futures Medallion pays 75% and post 9/11 GI Bill will pay out if students have both? I think that might be a great question for Brad to answer. Brad?
Hey, Dustin, can you go ahead and repeat that question for me, please?
Sure. So that question was, will you explain how Florida Bright Futures Medallion pays 75% and post 9/11 GI Bill will pay out if a student has both?
Okay, so the Florida Medallion Scholarship is a non-tuition and fee-based scholarship, so it will not affect your GI Bill payments at all. You would still receive the full amount for the tuition.
Thank you, Brad. So we have another question here. When will a GI Bill show up on the student's financial aid account, or will it? Right now, they're only seeing the Bright Future Scholarship. Amy, I think I'll send that one your way.
So I can go ahead and take that one again, Dustin. So it really depends on when the student submitted their Clockworks application to our office, and then when we were able to process them and certify them to the VA. So for a student who is curious about something like that, that would be something for a one-on-one where I would have to actually look up their name and see what dates their Clockworks application came in.
Okay, thanks, Brad. I'm going to go ahead and reply to that question, and I'm going to drop the link to your breakout session and the response to that question. So that person, if they want to talk to you more about it, they can use that link to talk to you after this QA portion. Okay, so moving on, we have one question here. The question is, what accommodations will students with disabilities have for the in-person on-campus classes? So I'll preface this before I answer the question that it's best to typically reach out to the Student Accessibility Services for questions related to disabilities and other factors on campus and accommodations. Is there anybody on our staff that feels like they could answer that question at the moment? And if you need me to repeat it, just let me know.
I think I could, Dustin.
Thanks, Larry. Go ahead.
Probably a lot is going to depend on each individual faculty member, but I do know that social distancing will be in place for those coming to campus. The classrooms will be cleaned and sterilized in between classes. Professors will be wearing masks during instruction. Students will be social distanced at least 6 feet apart. There's a requirement, for example, if I'm in a class with 10 students, there's a requirement to have a classroom large enough to accommodate, 6 times that, I believe it is, something like that. The other thing is, in addition to that, every professor is supposed to videotape their class. And be able to have it online, viewable online, and each professor will make accommodations based on the course with the students. I think it'll be very accommodating for students with underlying conditions.
Thank you, Larry. So we have a few more questions coming in to the chat now. We have one question. Does the GI Bill pay the BAH monthly, or will we have to pay it up front? So I'm going to attempt to answer some of that question, and then I'm going to ask maybe Brad to jump in and kind of fill in any gaps that I leave. So it depends on which chapter of the GI Bill that you have. And it depends if you're using Chapter 33 and you're receiving the housing stipend. The way that typically works is if you are receiving a stipend, if you start classes in August, you'll receive your first housing payment in September, and then your September housing payment would be, you'd receive that in October. I'm going to let Brad kind of fill in the gaps there and maybe explain that a little bit better than I did. Brad, would you mind jumping in?
Sure. So you hit it on the head with that, Dustin. The other caveats that I would add to it is that you have to keep in mind that you have to be over half in order to receive that. So for an undergrad, they need to be taking more than 6 credits in the semester. And for a graduate student, it would also be over 6 credits to receive that housing allowance. And as you said, it would only be for Chapter 33.
Thanks, Brad. I appreciate that. We have another question here. This is kind of a general question. How can new student veterans to USF get involved with OVS? So I think there's a lot of folks in our chat here who could answer that question. I think the best person to start with might be Amy. Amy, can you jump in here?
Absolutely. So as a new veteran, if you are looking for employment, we have the VA Work Study Program. So if you want to get involved with the office and get paid while doing so. You can apply as a work study on our website. And we are always looking for volunteers for events and any help basically throughout the office. So please come to my session after the group Q&A and talk with me so I can see kind of what your interests are and where we can use you.
Thanks, Amy. Would you mind dropping the link to your session in a response to that question?
Will do.
Thanks. We have one other question here. This is a question that says, I received a CARE scholarship from Polk State College. Will that affect my VA benefits? They are cross-enrolled at PSC and USF. Brad, I think that might be a question for you to answer, but it may be something to talk about in the breakout session. What do you think?
Yeah, we can speak about that in the breakout session, but typically that doesn't affect your GI Bill, those CARE scholarships. And the one that they received, if they received it at Polk State, it wouldn't have much effect on the class that they're taking here at USF.
Thanks, Brad. So we have one other question that dropped in the chat. This is a question from Corey. This is a follow-up to Dr. Brau's previous answer. Will professors be choosing which platform they deliver course instruction, or will they all be required to use a specific one, i.e. Microsoft Teams, Zoom, etc.? Is there anybody here? Dr. Brau, would you like to answer that question? Or?
Sure, and maybe Shana can chime in too if she has if she knows. But typically, the Blackboard Collaborative or Teams will be probably the two most used platforms for online classes for professors. If you know of anything else, Shana, maybe you can chime in too.
Sure. So the official delivery method is through Canvas. If you have any questions or concerns about accessing Canvas, you're welcome to come to our breakaway session in a little bit regarding academics or learn more about our soft skills tutoring program. But the primary modality will be Canvas, and Blackboard Collaborate is a tool within Canvas that allows professors to live stream their classes as well as record them and use some interactive functions in terms of sharing PowerPoint slides, using whiteboards, sharing videos, graphics, allowing you to communicate with your peers and classmates, etc. Microsoft Teams, while a faculty can certainly choose to use it, is more designed for your interaction with other offices on campus. So if you would need to connect with our office remotely, or financial aid, or academic advising, or even your peers during this time, that's what Teams is going to be designed for. Officially, the university's statement is that we're staying away from Zoom due to some recent complications with Zoom and security as a platform. So long story short, Canvas first, Teams second. Talk to your professor, check your syllabus.
Thank you, Dr. Brau and Shana. We have another question here, and I think this one's going to be for you, Amy. This is from John Jacoby. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Will there still be a Veteran Week this fall with all services presented in past years?
Hey, John. So it's going to look a lot different from an events point of view this fall. We're not going to have any in-person events that are going to have a large congregation of people. So almost every event that we had last year will be offered virtually. So like the Honorable, for example, we're planning on a virtual event for that, while still sending students their physical cord and presenting hopefully maybe some physical awards. So we're still in the works of how that's all going to work out. But as far as large groups of people, unfortunately, we won't be able to do that. But we are trying to stay as involved and keep you guys as involved as possible using our virtual events.
Thank you, Amy. Next question that we have is a follow-up, I believe, to the earlier question that we were talking about, Brad. The student states the chapter of the GI Bill that they're using is Chapter 33. If the BAH pays monthly, then it will pay month to month after 9 October. How does that work? Trying to find out if I'll have to pay anything up front. Brad, do you want to answer that question?
Can you go ahead and repeat that question for me, Dustin?
Sure, sorry about that. So the question is, the student stating that they have chapter 33 of the GI Bill. If the BAH pays monthly, then it will pay month to month after 9 October. That is posed as a question. How does that work? Trying to find out if I'll have to pay anything up front.
Okay, so, well, if they put their clockworks in on time by the first Friday of the semester, we'll put a deferment on their account, so they won't have to pay anything up front as far as their tuition fees are concerned.
Thank you, Brad. And then typically with books, if they don't receive their book stipend on time, is there something that we recommend?
So with the book stipend, if they don't receive that on time, they're able to call into the VA, and I can give out that number. It's 1-888-442-4551. And if you contact the VA and you've been certified already, you can ask them to expedite if you're dealing with a hardship situation, and sometimes they'll go ahead and push it through a little quicker for you. That way they can possibly get their book stipends a little earlier.
Thank you, Brad. So we have another question here. My active duty contract end date is September 13th, and I am currently receiving a housing allowance. I'm going to be a full-time student. Do you know how this will affect my housing allowance from the GI Bill, since classes will have started and there would be overlapping housing allowance payments?
I can go ahead and take that one again, Dustin.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, so the way that works is if you process out on September 13th, you would need to call the VA September 14th to let them know, and then that's when the MHA would start with your GI Bill payment as well.
Thanks, Brad. So I'm just taking a look here through our chat, and I don't see any new QA questions from anyone. Does anybody have any other comments or questions they'd like us to answer at the moment? Okay, well, if there are no other questions coming into QA here, we can go ahead and move over to the breakout sessions. I'm gonna still, I think we might have one more coming in here. Okay, so we have one more. In order to receive the full benefit, I'm gonna go ahead and publish this and then so the question is, in order to receive the full benefit, I have to take at least one in-person class. That is the only reason I am cross-enrolled with Polk State, because I live in Lakeland and take the in-person class there. But because of all classes being online due to COVID, I think there's a follow-up comment on the, so yes, so they're saying, will I still receive the full benefit? So let me reread that question again for everyone. In order to receive the full benefit, I have to take at least one in-person class. That is the only reason I am cross-enrolled with Polk State, because I live in Lakeland and take the in-person class there. But because of all classes being online due to COVID, will I still receive the full benefit?
So as long as they're certified showing that they have that one credit that is considered a face-to-face course, and they're in at least 12 credits, if they're an undergrad, they will still receive the full housing allowance.
Okay, thank you, Brad. And we do have another, there is a student saying they have more questions about chapter 33 with Brad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and post the link to that breakout session, so you can have your questions answered for any benefits questions with Brad. Let me just go ahead and post that link for you. So you should see that now. And then for the folks that are going to be going to the breakaway sessions, I'm just going to make an announcement now. So the breakaway sessions, they're not open yet for students because our staff are in the town hall, but once the town hall concludes at the end of the QA portion, you should be able to access the link. You should be able to access that breakaway session by clicking the links that we've provided. Then we have another question coming in to the chat here. Let me take a look here. This is a question from Robert. Does OVS offer advising to students, or does course advisory happen through the college of your degree plan? I think that's a question for Shayna.
Hi, Robert. Thanks for your question. So officially, major advising happens through the college of your degree plan. Because USF is so big and we have so many programs of study, it's impossible for our office to become experts at every single program. So you would ideally go see your academic advisor in the college of your degree. That said, what our office does offer are a couple of other resources. If your questions are a little bit more in nature towards your VA benefits, or how does this impact you in your experience as a veteran, you're welcome to make an appointment with me individually to talk about those goals and those needs. If you want to talk to me and your academic advisor within your major, we have a program called Tandem Advising. So in a non-COVID world, the way Tandem Advising works is that you would schedule an appointment with your academic advisor and you would follow up with me, and I would attend that academic advising session with you in person. In this current climate, the way it works is you schedule your academic advising appointment through Microsoft Teams, and then assuming we've gotten our schedules connected, I can jump in on that Teams meeting with you as well. So if you have any concerns that you think impact you that your academic advisor might be overlooking, we can work together to meet with the advisor and make sure all your needs are met. Hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Shayna. We had another comment that came in, another question that came in. Where do we find our payee code for Clockworks? That's a question that Amy has already answered in the chat, but I'll just repeat that again for everyone who's listening that may have the same question. If you're looking for your payee code for Clockworks and you're using Chapter 35 benefits, the best resource is to call the VA Education Department at 888-442-4551 just to verify your payee code and your VA file number. They can give you that information there. So let me just take another look here to see if we have any other questions or comments in the QA. I'm not seeing any. I'll give it a few moments here if anybody has any other questions they'd like answered for the group, and then we'll transition to the breakaway sessions. So I do have a question that just came in regarding the book allowance. And the question is, approximately when should a student veteran receive the book allowance? Brad, would you like to take that one?
Sure, I can take that. So what'll happen is whenever the student gets certified, from the date that they receive that automatic email, it takes approximately 30 days for the VA to process on their end as well. And then once they find that the student is entitled and eligible to the GI Bill benefits, that's when they'll disperse out that book stipend to the student. So what they can expect is from the date that they've submitted their Clockworks, within about 30 days, we will submit it to the VA. And then after that submission, an additional 30 days, they should start to see some funds coming in.
Thank you, Brad. We do have another question in the chat here. The question is, what is an E-VA? Is anyone in our staff here familiar with an E-VA?
I'll take that one, Dustin. So EVA, or EVA, is the electronic virtual assistant that VRNE, or Chapter 31, formerly vocational rehabilitation, is using to assist their counselors with communicating and scheduling appointments for veterans. So Chapter 31 veterans will receive an EVA invitation to allow their counselor to communicate with them via text and email to communicate their appointments or upcoming assignments. So that's a really important feature for the counselors to use to communicate with you. So I would highly recommend you go ahead and accept that invitation so that it'll just make things a lot easier for you to communicate with your counselor.
Thank you, Janine. So we have another question here. The question is, I received a small Salute to Scholars scholarship. Will that affect my veterans benefits? Brad, are we familiar with that scholarship?
Yeah, I can go ahead and take that. That is also a non-tuition and fee-based scholarship, so it will not affect your GI Bill benefits.
Thanks, Brad. So I'm not seeing any new comments or questions yet. If you have any other questions or comments that you'd like the whole group here to answer, please drop that into the QA. We'll give that a few moments. If there are no more questions or comments, we can start to shift over to the breakaway sessions for those that would like to meet more privately with our staff. So we do have another question. I'm going to publish it here so we can all see it. In the start of this session, a 90-day deferral was mentioned, but I missed the details. Please repeat. So I can go ahead and start talking about this, and then Brad, you can fill in anything that I might miss.
Okay.
So for Clockworks purposes, if you're going to be using VA benefits, we ask all of our students to complete a Clockworks application indicating which chapter of the GI Bill they're going to be using. And when you do that, when you submit your Clockworks application to us, we typically, once we certified it, process it, we place a deferral on your account, a deferment rather, so that you won't be dropped from your classes if your VA payment is delayed for whatever reason. Does that sound about right, Brad?
No, you hit it on the head with that. That is correct. We certify you as long as you got your application in by that first Friday of the semester. We put the deferment on your account, and that should protect you from being dropped or receiving any late fees. And like I said, as long as you have it in by that first Friday, in the event that you are dropped or do receive late fees, we can get that correct for you.
Thank you, Brad. So we do have another question. This might be a question for Jason. Jason to answer. Approximately when should the course syllabi be published?
Faculty was given the guidelines to have a draft syllabus published by August 17th. That's Monday, the week before classes begin. And so students should have access to their courses through Canvas beginning on August 17th. The syllabus that you see, it may still say draft on it, but it'll have some details with regard to when the course expects to meet, how they expect to meet, and whether it's synchronous or asynchronous.
Thank you, Jason.
Sure.
Just for informational purposes for all of our attendees, I'm going to put a link in our QA section that you should be able to access. This was something that we posted at the very beginning of the town hall. This is a link to the USF student guidelines for the fall semester. So we're specifically focusing on veterans issues in this discussion, but if you're interested in some more of the general guidelines for the university, in the link that I just put in the chat, you should be able to review some information just regarding general USF policies dealing with COVID-19. So it looks like we have another question as well in the chat. This is from Christina. I'm going to publish this to the group here so we can all take a look at it. Just to clarify, the housing allowance for this semester, I originally registered for some in-person classes, but they were changed to 100% online format. So for vets in this situation, will we have a decreased housing allowance? I believe the answer to that question is no. During Jason's discussion earlier, he mentioned that as long as the program that you originally were attending was intended to be in person, you should receive your complete full housing stipend. If the program that you're, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jason.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, so the first piece of legislation that was passed back in early March took care of that. So for COVID-19 reasons, any modality that's changed from in-person to online is considered still to be face-to-face. And so for the people behind the scenes, what we have to do is know which programs of study were only approved for online. And so you may be familiar with some of the graduate certificates that are are strictly an online program, and there's a few others, but USF offers very few programs of study that are strictly all online. They may have online components, but the program itself is not all online. And so in that case, given COVID has changed the way we are providing instruction, you'll receive credit for face-to-face.
Thanks, Jason. And also, if you have more specific questions related to your benefits, I'm going to drop the link to Brad and Chris, our benefits counselors. I'm going to provide you that link as well. So if you have any additional questions, you can attend that breakaway session and they can help you out. I do have another question that dropped into the chat. This is a question. Do you know if the post 9/11 Veterans Bridge Scholarship Program is still ongoing? Ken, I'm not sure, but I think this is something you might be involved with.
Hey, Dustin. Yeah, thank you so much for letting me answer that question. Yes, you are still able to apply for that scholarship. If you'd like to send me an email, I will forward you the application guidelines. The sooner the better. The deadline is going to be the 1st of September for that, with the payout if you're selected in October. So please send me an email. Dustin put it out there, or Amy put it out there on the chat.
Thanks, Ken. And it looks like Amy just dropped that in the chat. I also have another question here. Question is, where can I print off a copy of my official schedule to submit for scholarship I am getting? So the best way to do that, and I'm going to let somebody else jump in if I'm telling you this wrong, but if you go to your My USF portal and you go to your OASIS student account, you'll have to log in, but there is an option in there to retrieve your unofficial transcripts, which I believe you can use for this scholarship specifically. You go under Student Records, View Unofficial Transcripts on Florida Virtual Campus, and then you'll have to input your information. It's going to take you to a website called Florida Shines. If you have specific questions about this, it might be a little bit easier to do it in a one-on-one session. So I'm going to provide you with the breakout link to Brad and Chris's breakout session, and they'll be able to walk you through that process.
Dustin, I'm just going to jump in real quick with that one too. For this particular student, please double check the requirements of your particular scholarship and how they're accepting information right now. Also in OASIS, you can look at your schedule at a glance. One of the challenges with Florida Shines is it requires, it posts based on current enrollment. So because fall hasn't technically started yet, it may not reflect your current schedule until the semester begins. And so if they're able to accept your week at a glance, which is something from an official tool within OASIS, you can grab a screenshot of that. You might not even need to print. Sometimes they're accepting PDFs or screenshots and electronic submissions. So just double check the requirements of that scholarship. But either way, OASIS is going to be your best friend with getting this documentation.
Thank you, Shayna. And I also provided Shayna's information in a response to that question. She may be the best point of contact for you for the breakaway session, just for some one-on-one support for that. So I am just taking a look here at the QA. I don't see any new questions yet, so we'll give it a few moments to see if anyone has any questions or comments they'd like us to answer at the moment. We'll give it a few more moments. It looks like I'm just getting a notification that someone has joined our benefits breakout, so we may start transitioning to the breakout sessions for those students that have individual questions. Give it a few more moments. Okay. I'm not seeing any new questions or comments in the QA portion. So I think it's probably about time for us to start transitioning to our breakaway sessions. So our staff is going to start transitioning to those breakaway links. Those have been posted in the chat a few times. For those that are interested in joining any sessions, or if you're still lagging a little bit behind and have any other questions, I'm going to stay in the town hall and I can direct you to the appropriate break room. Okay. Okay, folks, so it seems like a lot of our staff members are starting to transition to those break rooms. I just want to say thanks again for everyone that made the time to come and attend the first OVS town hall. We've really appreciated having you and answering your questions. Thank you and have a nice night. Go Bulls.